Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power of Exposure, Season 1. We're talking to phenomenal young people who are here to inspire our youth. We're just so blessed to have our guest speaker today, Mr. Khalil Wilkes. I'm going to let him tell you all about himself because he has a phenomenal history, and I want him to go all the way back to middle school and to now and just encourage you on your journey. This journey, it really is a journey, young folks. Understand that it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, but stay on the journey. Understand and know what you have to do in middle school and high school to get where you need to get and where you want to be. So I'm so excited and welcome, Mr. Khalil Wilkes. How are you today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
So excited you took the time to be with us. And I'm so
Yes.
excited for you to share your phenomenal journey. So tell us a
Yes.
little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what's been going on since middle school.
Yes. So, name's Khalil Wilkes from Teaneck, New Jersey. Um, Went to TJMS, all my Thomas Jefferson Middle School folks out there. Before that, went to Hawthorne. So, I guess you can kind of tell what part of Teaneck I'm from based off of that. From there, I moved on to St. Peter's Prep High School, where my dad coached me. He was my football coach there. Had a lot of great times while I was out there in Jersey City, but it was a lot in terms of commuting out there and the course load and a lot of the things that happened football wise. But I guess we can go more into that later in terms of my specific time at high school. But I went to St. Peter's Prep. And then from there, I got a football scholarship to go and play at Stanford University. Was recruited by Jim Harbaugh, who's the current coach at Michigan, but he used to be at Stanford. He got me to go all the way out to the West Coast. I love the academic rigor at the institution and just the type of individual that they were building these students to be innovators, to be thinkers, and not just to walk the straight line of academics, but push the envelope of how you can apply all the things that you learn in school to go out there and create change. So that's one thing I loved at Stanford. And then from there, after football, I know I'm going through a lot of years in just a couple minutes, but
So,
essentially these are just the snapshots of my life so far. After Stanford, decided to go to law school. And this was after my football career was over. Was able to play with the San Diego Chargers before then. And now I'm working my dream. I've graduated from Villanova School of Law. So I have my law degree and currently working in sports, doing something that I've always had a passion in and something that I'm hoping will carry me throughout my career.
wow, that's a lot. And that's a
Yes.
phenomenal a lot. It's just so great that you've done all this in such a short span of time. Now, I have a question. Did you always know you wanted to go to law school?
Yeah, so I always knew that it was a good backup plan for me as a student athlete. Of course, academics was number one because I knew that that's something that they couldn't really take away from me, my degree and the knowledge that I gained at these schools I was at or I attended. But I mean, for me, it was, I'm sorry, can you re-mention your question?
Yeah. Did you always know you wanted to go to law school?
Oh, yeah, in terms of law school, the first
And
thing I wanted to be was an NFL player.
right. When did you know
Yeah.
you wanted to go to law school, I guess, too?
Yeah, it was always I always wanted to have a backup plan. That's the reason why I went to a great academic high school in St. Peter's Prep and then Stanford. Outside of just being a football player, I wanted to have backup opportunities to be able to go to law school if I wanted to, or to do things in sports that didn't involve me being on the field, and that was able to be had at Stanford. So even though I had more of a technology-based degree at Stanford, I knew that law, or at least the legal profession, was something that I was somewhat interested in. But the time that the real, I guess, kind of the wheel started moving was once I started getting towards the end of my college career, mainly because I had gone through such a maturation period. And you'll hear that from a lot of people from starting off as an econ major when I was in high school, thinking I was going to, help with during the time of the recession, into having a newfound love in kind of technology because I was in the Bay Area, working with a lot of tech and startup companies and then kind of that maturation saying, listen, I love sports. Why don't I try to do something in sports, try to find a secondary degree that will help supplement the things that I've done on the field. And I feel like with my law degree and what I was able to do on the field, it helped me to get to where I'm at right now, working in college sports.
Wow. So I have a lot of questions. Hopefully you're prepared for all of this.
I
But
am.
you talked about a backup plan, and if we're talking to athletes in middle school, high school, or in little league, whatever sport they're playing, what advice do you have for them now that you have played sports all of your young life through college, played a little bit in the NFL, and then have now found another career? What kind of advice, if you could give them a couple of minutes, and this is what you got to be thinking about now, and you're in eighth grade, ninth grade, what would you say to a young person and the parents?
Yeah. Well, for the student athletes, because I haven't seen it from the parent side. I can talk from the parent side for what I've seen with my parents, but mainly through the student athlete side, I would say just don't take anything for granted. In that athletics, no matter if you have only play up to high school or you have a teen-year career in the NFL, it's only one part of your life. Individuals retire and have great NFL careers, and then they're mid 30s, maybe even to their 40s, and they're still trying to figure out what's that next step, right? And they still have to go through that transition period because your whole life is kind of wrapped around a sport for the most part. And I would say, for me, I use sports to get to where I wanted, both on the field. Yes, I wanted to be an NFL player, but understanding if I did really well on the football field and as a student athlete, that I was going to be even more of a commodity to these institutions that were recruiting me. And that was something that schools absolutely loved because they didn't have to think about whether I was going to be able to go to class or handle the rigor of school once I got to a university, because I showed that through what I was doing in high school and middle school. So, there's really two words of advice. Number one, don't take it for granted because it can be taken away at any point. I know people just hear that, but I've played with plenty of guys that were better than me, some of the best players I ever played with, that had injuries, that had certain circumstances that came up, that didn't allow them to have that Tom Brady, Drew Brees career and play for the rest of their lives.
Right.
So for those individuals, a lot of them, they didn't have much of a backup plan. They didn't value academics. They didn't value some of the community service things that they were able to do. Some of the opportunities that football also provides you, because that's another thing. Football provides so many great opportunities for you. And some of them took advantage of those things and some didn't. And you really see it after their football career when they're really scrambling to see what's next, because football consumes so much of their time. So don't take advantage take advantage of the time, but don't take it for granted.
Right. So basically, what you're saying is to a young person who's in school, who's an athlete, who wants to play professionally or in college, that your education is just as important as your sport. Correct?
Yes, and
And I think that's
it
so
goes
important that
twofold.
they know, that they understand that and know that, because sometimes that's missed. Some people think
Yeah.
that they're just such a great athlete that that's going to carry them.
But they also can work hand in hand. Like I said, the things that I was able to do on the football field, a big part of that was because I was good academically. I was able to stay on the field. I wasn't academically ineligible. I was able to seek opportunities at a great high school that has, great academically and even in college, because I still had those grades. They
Right.
loved the football aspect, but I wasn't going to be able to go to a St. Peter's Prep, a Stanford, and do a lot of things I'm doing right now outside of football if I didn't have that mindset starting in middle school that I'm more than an athlete.
Right, right. So, and I think that's just one of the things that I really want young people to understand. And you talked about qualifying for like NCAA, like all those standards, the coursework that you take is important in high school. It has to be NCAA approved. And also you have to have a certain GPA, based on your SAT scores. I think it kind of goes hand in hand. And so, that I know in TNAC, and I know your mom has helped with this as well, and just making sure, and Mr. David Langford, I know, has also helped with just trying to help young people and the parents understand the journey that you're on as a scholar athlete, and that, these academics and your athletics have to go hand in hand. So that's really important. And it's just so great that we're hearing from you and all the success that you've had, because this is where a lot of young people want to go. So outside of football, when did you decide what your passion was in life outside of football, or find your passion?
I think that is something that's always growing and evolving. I think that one thing that I'm very proud of myself about is the fact that I wasn't afraid to seek new opportunities. and to look at different career paths. I mentioned the fact that I was interested in possibly doing economics when I first came into Stanford. That was after, actually having some time to think and talk to people that worked in the industry and even professors and looking into that opportunity before I said, you know what, I want to try something else. So whether it was starting off doing that, you look on my, resume, I started off also doing medical sales. I found that was a great profession. And you can make a lot of money and you could, stay in a nice home base, have a nice stable life doing that. I did that for a little bit, but decided that there was something else that I wanted out of it. I substitute taught after I was done playing football because my mother works in the schools and I always have been a very service-based, youth empowerment-based. So I looked into that, right? So if you're able to try different things and get into these situations that are usually become open to you because you might be a student athlete or you're doing great things on and off the field or in the classroom. When those opportunities come up, so a lot of times going into a situation and saying, you know what, this is a terrible experience, I don't want to do this, is just as valuable as saying this is a great experience because you're able to really mature and see what is important to you and what do you want out of your career. And that was something for me, the passion to work with student athletes, the passion to do a lot of things I would do in college athletics. I think for a lot of people, they would want, when I'm having these conversations, say, since I was in middle school, I've been doing this and this has been a dream and I've been working towards this goal the whole time. I've been working towards a goal of being the best person I can be and utilizing the skills that God gave me. It wasn't really a specific goal. And I think that that's shown in kind of my maturation saying, listen, at first I thought I was going to be an NFL. That door might have closed, but I thought I was going to be an agent. Decided I didn't want to be an agent. So now I'm doing college athletics. And that's perfectly fine to finally get to the point where you're like, you know what, this is my passion. And I feel that through those other opportunities that I've at least gone in and tried, that I feel so much better being in the career that I'm in now because I can truly say that I've tried other things.
Wow.
So a lot of times you're going to find that passion by stepping outside of your comfort zone. So for me, if you ask me in a couple of years from now, I might have a new passion, right?
Yeah.
But that's perfectly fine. My current passion is to advocate for student athletes and for them to have the same opportunities and take advantage of the same opportunities I was able to take advantage of as a student.
Wow, that's great. That's powerful. So you touched on community service and then kind of like this program and the whole purpose of Power of Exposure and Parent Matters is to get young people out there, out of their comfort zone, trying different things, even if it's something you never ever thought you'd try. Like, why not? Especially if you're in middle school and high school, just try it because then at least you can cross it off your list. It's a lot less expensive to try some of these things while you're in middle school and high school rather than wait and get to college and major in something and then you find out you really don't like it and now you're
Exactly.
in lots of money. So I think that's great that you've incorporated, because I know football takes a lot of time, as far as practice and games, et cetera, even when you're young, that you've managed to find other opportunities and also to do some volunteer work and service. And sometimes you find your passion just in volunteering and working with different organizations. So I'm glad you said that it's ever evolving. It is a journey. I have children and they're always asking me, when does this end? And I said, hey, it never ends. And you just keep evolving. And there was a generation of people that used to take a job and stay in that job for 40 years, but I don't think that we're in that same space now. So the key is, what I'm hearing from Khalil is, keep your mind open and try a lot of different things and you never know where it's going to lead you. And this is what I've heard from my kids, and I'm sure you can speak to this, the connections that you've made and how has that helped you, the network?
Yes. The connections I've made have just been unbelievable, mainly because I was able to go to these academic institutions or at least join a fraternity, join other groups that I knew at least valued friendship and valued making those connections and building that network. And for me, to be completely honest with you, I wouldn't be in the position I am in right now, working in college athletics, and my resume wouldn't look quite the way that it looks right now if it wasn't for connections. There's one thing to look great on paper, but you need somebody that's going to be able to advocate for you. And I think that a lot of the connections come from starting off just being a good person, right? People are attracted to good people, people that smile, people that say thank you, people that open up doors for people, people that are gentlemen, people that are, just nice people. And once somebody has your energy or knows your energy and just knows that you're also a hard worker and that you're going to go to bat for them the same way you want somebody else to go to bat for you, the connections come easily and they come naturally. And the one thing I would say about connections is, quality over quantity. There's so many times I can look over my Rolodex, look over my phone and say, how did I meet that person? And you never want to go into that position because, getting texts from people, that's some of the most embarrassing things. You'll get texts, congratulations, Khalil, on a new position, going back to Stanford and know all these great things about you. And then it's, how do we connect again? How do we build from here? So I think that if you're able to have a quality relationships, starting off now, if you're in middle school and high school, it starts off by the fact that in the next position that you want to be promoted to, college applications, they ask for recommendations, right? That's the beginning of you even starting that whole process of really connecting. And it shows in what society actually values in the power of connecting. And that's even more easy to do and available for you to do in today's society than it's been in the past.
That's a good point you made about the connections. And then like in middle school and high school, you're going to have to find some teachers, somebody in the school to connect with, because those are going to be the folks that are going to write your recommendation letters. So, showing up to class, showing your interest, even if you need help, showing up and asking for help before things go left is so important. And connecting with these people, getting your teachers' personal email addresses before you graduate from high school or middle school so that you can stay connected to them, because everybody needs that connection. Most people, I really don't know anybody who's been successful and where they've gotten without the help of somebody in their network. And so what you're saying is so huge and so key. And advocating for yourself and meeting people, and then kind of going out on a limb sometimes. And if you see somebody doing something that you're ultimately like, wow, I'd love to do this when I'm older or I'm in a different position, reach out to them. Ask for help, or ask if they'd be a mentor of some sort, because I think most people I've ever met that are successful always want to give back and always talk about people who've helped them. So you talk about maybe giving back and mentoring young athletes. If somebody was interested in chatting with you, would you be open to that?
Definitely. And I work from the side of the experience side, but also the side of now being in more of an administrative role and working as an employee that works in college athletics. Having those two different experiences, but relevant experiences, I think would be beneficial to any, or worthwhile for anybody that's interested in playing college Division I football specifically, or even playing in college in general. To have a conversation with me or anybody that's just even knowledgeable of some of the things, you'll be so surprised some of the information that is out there and some of the misinformation that's also out there, of kids that want to go to college and really understand how to get to those points, but without the right type of guidance, that can separate somebody that has the opportunity from somebody that looks back and says, man, I wish I would have or could have, right? So definitely open to always giving back. That's the reason why I got into this profession. It wasn't for the money. It wasn't for a lot of other things. It was because to have these interactions with young student athletes, most of which that look like me. So I'm definitely open for individuals that are serious about playing college sports, because it sounds nice, but it's a grind, and it is, and for me to also take out my time to help mentor, I would hope that somebody will also have those, like motivation to still do what's best for them to try to get into these academic institutions and be a college athlete.
So I have a question going back to high school. And I recently spoke to a young man who also grew up in Teaneck and played sports. And he chose not to go to Teaneck High School. And I'd like to eventually get all of you young athletes that did not go to Teaneck High School together, because and maybe have some conversations with administration around making the changes that maybe would attract. I've heard from board members and other people that sometimes by the time local high schools lose their brightest and their most talented young people to other schools and academies, et cetera. How would you speak to a parent or a child who is now about to consider a high school in their area, and how to choose? And do you really think it made a big difference? And maybe maybe it really did, because this young man had some really interesting things to say about that. So I'd just love for you to speak to that.
Yeah, well, that could probably be a conversation in itself. Um, that can go probably 30 minutes to an hour in itself. But for me, I think it's about a case by case basis. And I know that's kind of a cop out, um, but I think that is true. For me, St. Peter's Prep was the right choice for me, even though it wasn't the closest school,
Right.
because my dad had gone to the school. My dad was a coach at the school. My dad could speak to the people that were at that school. I knew that I was going to be at a Catholic school that was also going to have people that look like me as well in the high school, compared to some of the other schools that were competing with St. Peter's Prep. And for me, I was 13, 14 years old, and my parents felt that I was mature enough to take 2 trains to school. Let's be honest. Like, there's plenty of parents I'll talk to, and I'll tell you all the great things about St. Peter's Prep and what it's done for my life and people like me. But at the end of the day, if you don't trust that your son or your son can take that trip, 2 trains, and wake up 5:30 in the morning to go to St. Peter's Prep, even though I don't think any 8th or 9th grade is prepared for that, if you don't think that he's going to have a worthwhile experience, there are plenty of people that have gone to St. Peter's Prep and said this is an absolutely great school, but it's not for me.
Right.
And that happens too. So if
Right.
there's not one size fits all. I can talk to 2 people. I've talked to people from the same school, same background. One absolutely loved prep, and he went off and is at Purdue doing great things. There have been others that have loved prep, but for maybe it was football opportunities, or academic opportunities, that they thought Teaneck High was better. I'll tell you right now, from an academic standpoint, Teaneck is great in the courses that they offer. Right? They have these business courses. They have such a wide array of on-course subjects that hopefully are still keeping around. I know sometimes they still are starting to cut a lot of these things, unfortunately. But those are the things that make Teaneck High special. You want to talk about, being close to your community, individuals that you're going to be working with every single day. If you want to be a successful person, most of the people that you're going to be meeting or working with or working for are individuals that go to Teaneck High that might have not been able to afford to go to a private school, right?
Right.
So it's all about how you crack it. If you are willing to spend some money, St. Peter's Prep costs $18,000 a year.
Right.
That is just something that a hurdle you're gonna have to get over. But from the other side of it, one thing I can say about parochial schools is that if you have, they're great motivators, in the sense of you have a sense of once you go into there, your parents are paying for this education. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into this.
Yeah.
And the students and the teachers all know that, and it's infectious. The type of just overall attitude that people have once they go to a St. Peter's Prep. That listen, you can go and do what you need to do, but at the end of the day, I'm going to get my work done. And a lot of times when I was in 9th and 10th grade, I wanted to go out and do things that weren't best for my health. But it was somebody else at St. Peter's Prep, another student, that pulled me over and was like, listen, like, I see what you're doing over there, not to judge, but I see so much more potential in you. A student. I don't know if that's happening at many other schools. And at these parochial schools, you have a lot of individuals that come from like minds that want to do great things in the world, and that will also pick you up when you're down. So that's all to
powerful.
say. It's all individual. All individual.
No.
I absolutely love my alma mater, but I also have great respect for Teaneck High.
Right. No, that's well said and very powerful. Because we live in an area, and a lot of people live in areas where you have a lot of choices. And I've seen parents super, super stressed, like which way to go, which that kind of thing. And even my son, who played athletics, said, I wish I had gone to possibly a different school for athletics. I love the academic rigor at Teaneck High. So there's, like you said, there's just different, schools of thought, and you never know. I think it's important, though, what you talked about when you said about the path. Oh shoot! Well, you said something about being mature and being able to travel to a different school in a different neighborhood and being mature enough to handle all that. But there was something else to my point. Wow, and I'm really losing it right now. I'll come back to it. But the schooling is important. Oh, so on my website, I created a tab called College Connects, because I really think it's really important, and you probably can speak to this. When you're choosing a college as a student or a parent, you can go visit the college, you can look at the website, but it's a pretty daunting task because you're like, I don't really know enough about it. You walk into campus. So we put that on the website so that folks can actually see the number of connects we have at different colleges, so that if someone's actually interested in Stanford, I would be able to say, hey, you know what, maybe I can connect you via email to Khalil, and he can have a conversation with you. You can talk to his parents and talk about his experience, and from, you know, before they send their kid all the way across country. So with what you said about choosing high schools, I think we're going to do that, since we live in an area also where we have multiple options, do something like that as well. And so have like a St. Peter's Prep, Teaneck High, all the different parochial schools that are in our area, or academies, so that you can connect. Because even though my kids, 3 of them went to Teaneck High and 2 didn't, um, they're not every school is for everybody, you know, and that's the thing. And you never know what school is going to be best for your kid. Like Nigel's at the academies, and that probably would not have been a good school for the rest of them. So, but it's a good fit for her. So it's really important. So I think that's something, I'm glad you said that, that we will add that to our, and we'll call it High School Connect. And that way, when folks are looking at different high schools, they can do that. So we talked about high school, college. What was it like going to Stanford, and what was it like being an athlete at Stanford and
Yeah.
leaving and going all the way across country?
Yes, it was super exciting, but I was, of course, terrified. Um, you know, it was one of those things. My college experience, at least going into college, was a little bit different because I got recruited. It wasn't really one of those things. I knew exactly which schools were recruiting me, and those were the options I was only going to look at in terms of academic schools. So Stanford was one of those institutions. I had also taken probably 20 or 30 different visits from different schools. It was a little bit crazy, but for me, going to Stanford was really a decision that I knew that at first was going to be hard, because I am very family oriented. Usually I'm right by, if I'm able to be in Teaneck, I'm with my mom, doing things with my family. And then going all the way out to California, you know, as an 18-year-old kid, it was obviously terrifying in that sense. But the thing that I can definitely say when it comes to sports, that's one type of thing that if you're skeptical about moving far away, athletics helps a lot, in the sense that there are other individuals that can be going through the same thing that you're going through in terms of distance. You have your own family and friends within that team, even before a lot of students even come on campus. So you have that advantage as well. And just from an academic standpoint over at Stanford, I mean, I was terrified of, you know, whether I was going to be good enough. You know, I had gotten good grades throughout my life, but there was times I knew that even my hardest work would probably only give me a B at times. And that was something that I had to learn, and something that was a great lesson in life for me. So I absolutely love my experience there. It was, whenever I think about my college experiment, experience, I think of it kind of as an experiment. It was just a great time, seeing California palm trees and that sort every morning. And sometimes waking up like, where am I right now? You know, like going from
Like,
walking over to TJMS every morning to riding this unbelievable campus. If you've ever been in the area, I would highly recommend you go and visit the campus. It's beautiful. It was super exciting. And then for me, knowing some of the things I wanted to do in college, but wondering if I was going to be able to do them as a student athlete. I come from a family that is very much Coleman love. We have a lot of deltas. We have a lot of Qs in my family. That's something I was always interested in, to become. Yes. Yep. We have to rep. That's something I was interested in at a very early age. So to be able to go to Stanford and have that opportunity, you know, for me to take advantage of that opportunity was just something that also added to my experience, being far away from home, but then joining a whole new family that was just all over the country and all over the world. So it was very fun. It was a lot. I'm also very happy and thankful to God for getting me through my times at Stanford, because I'm sure there were plenty of times that I could have not been here in front of you today.
Yeah, we're thankful too, and we're super proud. We were all just so proud of you taking that leap. You know, Stanford's a phenomenal university institution that, you know, it's like a dream for so many young people. So for you to get there, to play football, to do well academically, do well in football, and I'm glad you shared your fears. because I think sometimes young people think that everybody has it going on and that, but so sometimes we don't look like what we're going through and we don't show our fear on the outside. But, sometimes, a lot of times you're fearful. And that's a good thing because it means you care about what you're doing and it means a lot to you and you respect what you're doing. So even if, speaking to young people listening, even if you're fearful, I say go for it. Fear and as my son did a program and their motto was fall forward. So if you're gonna fall, just keep falling forward, pick yourself up and keep going. And sometimes when doors are closed or opportunities aren't, they really aren't meant for you. They just meant for you to be directed somewhere else. So, but take these opportunities and no matter how scared you are, and as long as you have a support and network and a mentor, always have a mentor in your life, I say go for it. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'm also glad you mentioned, visiting the campus. I haven't had that opportunity. It's definitely on my places to go because I hear it's beautiful. But as early as elementary school, middle school, start taking your kids to college campuses. So we've made a point when we're on vacation, no matter where we are, there's a college. So go visit those colleges in the area. Just walk the campus. Just let your kids start getting used to this is where I'm going to be in X number of years. It does a lot for their psyche. It helps them understand that this is the goal and this is where I'm going to, even if they don't choose to go to that college or even college, they take a different career path, just let them have something to dream about. And like there's like that end game, right? In line or that, in mind, and that so you have something to keep you going. So when you're in that math class and you're like, oh, like wait, I want to get there. So this is what I gotta do. And that's why it's so important to find a passion, whether it's athletic, or whatever your passion is, early, because and a mentor, so somebody can help you stay on track, as you're going through this process. So I definitely highly recommend that. So you played football at Stanford. What was the highlight of playing football at Stanford?
Oh man,
If there was
I'll,
one.
I'll probably, yeah, I would say the highlight was definitely the fact that there was a lot of people that doubted us coming in. Everybody, when I first signed to Stanford, it was a lot of congratulations. It's a great academic school, but the football team is terrible. Before I'd gotten there, they hadn't gone to a bowl game, meaning they weren't even 500 for the past. They didn't have an even record. They didn't win as many games that they lost
Oh,
for a
wow.
10-year span before I got there.
Oh, wow.
So the program wasn't the greatest. They had a lot of young players and there was a lot of promise. But at the end of the day, people were like, you'll always lose to the USCs and the Oregons. And then to look back and see that we won 2 conference championships, that we went to what would now be the college football playoff, but was the BCS bowls, with going to the Rose Bowl twice. These are games that I dreamed of playing in, that I never thought I was going to be able to play in by going to a Stanford. I thought I made an academic, academic move by going there. Little did I know that, guys like Andrew Luck and Richard Sherman and Doug Baldwin and David DeCastro and Christian McCaffrey. I mean, all these guys that are doing great in the NFL right now would be coming to Stanford around the times that I was there. So I would probably say first the doubters, and then proving them wrong was just unbelievable.
Wow. I didn't realize they had that kind of record. And that's
Yeah,
interesting.
they were bad. They were not good.
That's interesting that you chose to go there because you had how many other choices?
I had football offers. I had 19 football offers, full
Wow.
scholarship for football. Yeah, and that was all over the country, from Vanderbilt, UCLA, all the way to Rutgers, and so it was one of those situations that I couldn't let up the opportunity to go there from a maturation as a man standpoint, and even in growing as a scholar. It was one of those situations where I just felt like I couldn't pass up on the opportunity. But
Right.
football was probably the 4th or 5th thing on my list by choosing Stanford at the time. It just so happened that there were other great football players there that I didn't know were going to grow into great football players.
Wow.
And the rest is kind of history.
That's awesome. Well, I've heard coaches say this to young people, and tell me if you agree that when you're choosing a college to play at, choose the college, not, because if for some reason you get hurt or you stop playing, you want to make sure that it's a school that you want to be at, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's important. So wow, Rose Bowl, all that. Wow, I remember those days. That's just so exciting that you even think about that. So what was your major at Stanford?
Yes. So my technical major. So the thing at Stanford is that a lot of times we'll have these interdisciplinary degrees to where people say, okay, well, after you say your major, what does that really mean? So I'll give you the full name and then I'll tell you what it really means. So I'm a science, technology, and society major with a concentration in management science and engineering. Essentially at Stanford, that's a very obnoxious way to say that I was a business major and I took some engineering classes in between there. So a lot of my classes are very much innovation based. It was from the perspective of an employer. So not exactly the nuts and bolts of accounting, but being given a company and, looking at, all their details and seeing how you can grow the company more from a consultant standpoint, or whether it was having a project where you had to build a new startup and then pitch it in front of venture capitalists. Those are kind of some of the cooler classes I've taken,
Wow.
but my major was kind of centered more towards going into the startup industry, tech industry.
Wow. So if there's a young person who is an athlete or not and into academics and is considering Stanford as a college, what would you say to them?
I mean, I'm super biased, but I haven't seen too many employers or anybody look down at Stanford compared to the Harvards and the MITs, and we're in California weather, so it's one of those situations that if there are great schools all over. I went to Villanova for law school. I think undergrad is a great school. They have great programs there. I think Rutgers is a great program, especially for being able to get in-state tuition.
Right.
But for me to be able to have Stanford on my record and to show that into an employer and kind of get that, oh, okay, you went to Stanford, is something that I just truly cherish. And while I was out there, it really did help being in great weather in California with the type of people out there compared to some of the other schools that they compete with. So I'm a little bit biased, but to me, if my son or daughter gets accepted into Stanford, I'm gonna tell them you should probably go.
There you go. No, it sounds like a win-win situation to me. I know
Yes.
it's a very difficult school to get into, but this is another thing. Just apply. Why not, right? Why not? You never know. You never know what a particular school, and this is what I learned with my kids, is looking for at that particular moment, and you might fit the bill. So apply, and definitely go check it out. So from Stanford, what happened once you graduated?
Yeah, so from Stanford, I didn't mention the fact that I did fulfill my lifelong dream of at least getting into the NFL. So after I was done, I didn't get drafted. I was signed as a free agent to the San Diego Chargers when they were still in San Diego. Had a great experience with the San Diego Chargers, but it's also a numbers game. There's only a certain amount of people that can stay on the team. And despite having a great camp with them, doing great things while I was with the organization, they ended up cutting me. And that was a period where I was still very interesting period because I was trying to find what was the next thing for me. The football window was starting to close a little bit, but I still kind of had my foot in that career, still training, still waiting for that call from an NFL team. And once that didn't happen after a year or so, while I'm also substitute teaching, still finding ways to make some income and be, active. While those things happened, while I was in being a substitute teacher, that's when I started thinking more about law school. Some of those situations where I was thinking, well, I'm at the point to where I kind of anticipated, right? Like I came into Stanford so I can have a good backup plan and go to a school that's going to be able to help me to go into law school if I didn't do it athletics. So decided to go to law school route, took the LSAT, which I'm not a big tester. I don't like tests. So just the application process was not something that I was even used to because in high school I was recruited and it was something that I dreaded, but I went through it and decided to go to law school with the mindset that I was going to be working in sports. So for me, while I was going through law school, it was about getting all the skills of a lawyer, learning how to write and think like a lawyer, but also knowing that my background in sports and the connections that I made, keeping those strong so I can actually enter into the sports field, because anybody that works in sports or entertainment, they'll tell you everybody wants to do it, but it's so hard to get into the industry. So that's when I was able to pull the most from my Stanford experience, to show people like, listen, I'm not just somebody that can look over a contract for you. I actually have some knowledge of the overall context of what it takes to be a student athlete. So for my student athletes out there, that's something that you can bring to an employer if you want to work in sports or work in any industry, to say, listen, I have all the credentials that you need to do the job that you need to have done, but look at also the context of some of the other experiential things that I learned through being an athlete.
Wow.
That I think that all student athletes should take advantage of.
Wow. That's powerful. You talked about the football window closing, and I know for athletes and, how passionate you spend so many years working toward a particular goal. And I think that's really powerful what you said. And for young people to understand and know that, everything actually comes to a close or end, because really no athlete plays their entire life. So you really have to go into whatever you're going to do with a couple of different plans and a couple of different schools of thought. And, because, I've seen, young people I've known, and even the parents, get depressed when their kids' career, even in like high school or middle school or college, ends. And it's like, so you have to be able to bounce back and look at that as that got you to this point, and that was a blessing, and then keep going from there. And so I'm glad you were able to pivot on that and turn that into going into law school, which is wow. Like, first of all, playing football at the collegiate level, Division I, is like blowing my mind. And then going on to law school, which is like daunting for most people, but knowing that you can do it. I think one of the things, especially for young people, from the Black and Brown communities, I think that one of the things you need to understand when you're in school is, and this, you can speak to this, is that you have to work in cohorts and you have to work with a group of people. When I was in college, I was like solo. Like, I knew people, but we never really studied together and worked together. But I do know that I've learned over the years that most people who are successful have worked on teams and groups, and you find your study groups, and you don't try to do this alone. And do you want to speak to that? And surviving at Stanford and law school academically, and how you did it.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely be a person to say that everybody is different in the sense of people learn differently. Some people are a lot better working individually. They don't work well in group settings. And then some individuals will work a lot better in cohorts and even in studying in cohorts. And that's something that I really learned, the power of working in cohorts, when I was in law school. Because even though I guess in undergrad, I did work with other student athletes that might've been in my class or other students, and worked in cohorts in a lot of those group projects. It wasn't until law school that I saw that there is the information that and the information that you got from the professor, but it's valuable also getting the information that maybe your peer might have got. You're not going to be able to find out everything in those class lectures or be able to have all the notes or have everything that you need for a test. But a lot of times, outside of just having the substantial information, a lot of times just the extra question that somebody might have, or a different way of thinking, that can really help you once you get into that test. And that was something that helped me tremendously, because, my first semester in law school, I was thinking, this is going to be a personal journey. It's very competitive because they rank, how you do compared to your peers. And I was thinking, to work in a cohort, I don't know their intentions. They might be giving me the wrong information. I wasn't trusting.
Wow.
And then the first semester grades came out, and I was talking to some individuals, and they were like, man, if I wasn't in that study group, I would have never got that information. Or, if I wasn't in that study session and we all went to the professor with these sample problems, I probably would have never known how to deal with that products liability case, or those type of things at the end after the semester's over and you're looking at your grades and people have better grades because they took the extra step just to talk to other people and kind of just, pick their mind while still doing their own studying, are things that you end up regretting, and you never want to have regret after the fact. So working in cohorts definitely works for some people. I would say that for most people, it definitely helps more than it hurts. If you think that you're more of an individual learner, I'll say at least just try to sit in on some study groups, because for the most part, they're beneficial.
Right. No, that's absolutely, a great idea and great information that you gave. And even for young people who are in middle school and high school and college now, try that. Now we're all Zooms and Group Me. We're already using this technology. Try to work with other people. I get it. Some people are shy, but look for the help and reach out to your teachers and professors before things go left. Your teachers and professors want you to succeed for the most part. So when they see you, I remember my son was in an honors English class in high school, and the teacher said he probably won't get a or a B in this class, and it was his freshman year. But she said, leave him in this class because what I'm going to teach him, if he comes every day after school when he doesn't have practice or whatever, I'm going to teach him how to take big things and make them small into bite-sized small pieces that he can digest and learn from, and he'll be able to use that for life. And so thank God he stayed in that honors English class because he was like, no, 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 no. And he showed up every day that he could. And those people, those teachers, when they see you care, they care
Hmm.
about you and they
Yes.
want to see you succeed. And we're still in touch with that teacher today. And it's funny because she was one of those teachers that everybody, this is another thing you can speak to if you want, that everybody said, don't make your kids take that class with that teacher. Sometimes you hear that, right? And I heard that in
Yes.
college too, like, don't take that teacher. So everybody is individual. And, so I don't always believe that. So I say, try it. You can always change classes if it's not working out. But every parent I know told me not to put my son in that class, and she turned out to be somebody who is gonna be so beneficial what she taught him through his entire life. So, did you have that experience where you were like, don't take a particular professor or a teacher, and how did it work out?
It usually worked out on the other side, to where somebody said, "Listen, go take that class because you'll be able to get a good grade in it, and it's a great experience." And it was a different experience for me. Maybe they got the material better, maybe they with the professor better. So for me, I mean, I did use CourseRank, which is an app and a website that you can go out there and actually see what other people rank your professors and see how they rank the class and see some of the comments that other students have. I think that is valuable. I think if the information's out there, take a look at it, right? But there were definitely times where academic advisors or other student athletes saying, "Oh, go take this class, to boost up your GPA." And I'm in there, I'm like, I have no interest in this class, and I think this class is hard. So
Right.
I would definitely say go about it from a very individual perspective.
Definitely, definitely. So, when you graduated law school, what was your next step? And yeah, what was your next step after law school?
Yeah. So throughout law school, especially in the summertime, you have instances to where you'll do internships. You want to start your career mainly because once you're done with law school, you want to have something lined up. So for me, I knew I wanted to work in sports. I started off my work working at Temple, asking people for money in their development department in Temple athletics. But while doing that, I knew that I still had an interest, an itch to learn more about the legal field. So I still clerked under a judge that summer. So it was a very busy summer, but I got to do both. Moving into my second summer, I decided that, I hadn't had a lot of experience from the agent side. This is something that I told myself after school I was going to think about getting into, but I didn't really have any experience actually being in the day in the life of an agent. So I got to work at a great agency for another summer. Did that the entire summer. Also got to work at a music agency just in case I wanted to look more into the entertainment field.
Wow.
And one thing that I learned is that I wanted to get more back into the school environment, working more with student athletes, something that was more service and youth empowerment based. And then that's when, I got into college athletics. I had already done it from a development side, working more so with donors, but then working in compliance with Villanova, I was able to actually work with student athletes. And I knew that was something I was definitely interested in because I was happy to go to work. And even if it was hard, I was happy to do the extra steps to get the right results because I cared about these student athletes. So that ended up opening up a great opportunity. We talked about networking through that internship at Villanova. I was able to network with somebody that told me about an NCAA internship to where a lot of the top college athletic directors and administration staff come from this year-long internship with the NCAA where you would have to move out to Indianapolis. And that's what I did all of last year. I moved from New Jersey over to Indianapolis, a whole new world from what I was used to. And it was a valuable experience, but I wanted to get back on campus. So that's where I'm at now, back on campus, working on my alma mater. And I'm happy. I'm very content with the work that I do. I think that it's very fulfilling to be able to go to work every single day, working with these student athletes. And at the end of the day, I can say I work in sports. The bottom line is for us to win more games and for these individuals to be able to gain a degree. It's not rocket science. It's just sports and academics. So that's something I really enjoy.
Wow, that's awesome. So like full circle, almost like
Yes.
well, really,
Yes.
like you started out with football and you're still working in athletics, and that's in the actual alma mater. So that's phenomenal. So this journey and this conversation has been so powerful. I'm so fortunate to have known you for a long time, and your family, your village is strong, and I know that I'm sure that you give a lot of credit, and I tell a lot of parents that that village that you create around your child or your children is powerful, whether
It's
it's
crucial. Yep.
direct family members and then other folks outside, because that is how they're going to blossom and grow. And sometimes I even, do this for my kids. Sometimes kids don't feel comfortable telling their parents everything, or they don't believe everything, right? Their parents say. So I always try to put other people in their path that they could reach out to, that maybe they believe more than me for whatever reason. It's all good. But that village is strong, and I'm just so proud of everything you've accomplished, and the fact that your mom and your dad and your grandma and all the people that are involved in your life have the wherewithal to create this village around you and help you succeed and become the person that you are, and not only successful in your career but willing to give back, and that's so important. And I like what you said about you weren't really just doing it for the money. And I think that's why it's important for young people to find their passion and just be passionate about it and just go for it and just keep staying in your lane and go hard, 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 hard. And like, you also talked about the naysayers and people that are gonna, doubt you. Just keep going, and just keep going and find people who are in your corner that are gonna keep, pushing you along. And that, and sometimes you have to, push aside some of the toxic people that, might try to hinder you in that way. So I just want to say thank you tremendously for taking the time to share this story, and thank you for putting in the work, for honoring your family and God, and taking your God-given talents and blessings to another level. So that is just really important and powerful. So would you like to give us some parting words before we end this conversation? And talking to the young people, and then also how someone could connect with you if you're on social media.
Yes. So I am on social media at Khalil Shakur for Instagram, Shakur, Shakore, Khalil, Khalil. I know I said that a little bit backwards, but Khalil Shakur. I am on Twitter. You can just search in my name on Twitter and on Facebook, Khalil Wilkes, Khalil, Wilkes, Wilkes. And in terms of my email, I still have my last name, Wilkes Khalil at Gmail for any inquiries, especially having to do with anything college athletics related. And I want to thank you, Ms. Vega. Like you said, I've known you since 17 or so, and you've always been a part of that village and have always been there to advocate and cheer me on throughout the way. And I appreciate everything that you do for the community and for the youth and the great village that you're building with a lot of all of your children, all 5 of them. I got it right? All 5?
Yeah.
With every single one of them. And they're all just great people. Everybody that meets somebody from your family always has great things to say, whether it's Teji, Seti, Janine, Nadia, everybody. So thank you for being the mom and community activist that you are. So thank you. And in terms of any, parting words, I would just say, work hard and just be a good person. People will talk about you, whether it's good or bad, but, hopefully it's always that this person is somebody that will work hard, somebody that will advocate for me, somebody that will do the right thing. And at the end of the day, it's just a good dude or a good woman. And those are the only parting words I have.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and keep doing what you're doing. Keep making us proud. Can't wait to
Yes.
talk to you maybe a couple of years from now and see what else you're doing and how it
Yes.
can take us on when we're back on real live campuses and at work, you can take us on a virtual tour
A
of
virtual tour of Stanford, I would love
Stanford. Yes, yes, yes. Hey, maybe we can plan a Parent Matters trip out there for some young people to visit. I think that would be awesome,
Get the
because
pipeline going. I would love it.
seeing is believing. And I think that, young people, especially our young people from our communities, I think it's important for them to see and visualize a dream that they want to happen, and then that's all you need. And just keep going and have the people like Khalil to help guide you on your track. So thank you again. Have a wonderful day. Hugs to the whole family.
Yes, yes, yes. Right
Okay,
back.
bye.
All right, bye.